Exclusive report now. The mask has been ripped off of Ocasio Cortez and her evil puppet masters. If there's one thing you need to do right now, it's share this report. Now, as you know, we have been tracking the bizarre and meteoric rise of Ocasio Cortez since she stole her congressional seat from an entrenched incumbent Democrat in New York with the help of the radical left Justice Democrats. Now, we've covered here the latest FEC violations, the $1 million slush fund, and how she's paying her staff to get around transparency laws in Congress. But now something even more sinister has come to light. Joining me now is Chris Coles. You may know him as Mr. Reagan. He is the producer of the viral video exposing Ocasio-Cortez and the people pulling her strings behind the curtain. Welcome to the show, Chris.
How you doing, Gary?
You know, I watched that video. It's going all over the web. It was sent to me a few times, and I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, I'll watch it now. I'll finally watch it, because I get so much that comes across my desk every day. And a lot of the things you covered in that video were topics that we brought out as news items. And you connected the dots so well. And before we dig deeper into it, let's show everybody a clip of, I think, one of the most important parts, which brings out the truth that Ocasio-Cortez is nothing more than a puppet, a cat, somebody who's literally brought from Central Casting. Let's go to that, Brian.
Back in 2016, we put out a call for nominations. We got over 10,000 nominations. Out of those 10,000 nominations, we found Alexandria.
My brother told me that he had sent my nomination in the summer, but I was like literally working out of a restaurant then, and I was like, there's no way.
A casting call. They had a casting call. They cast Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the role of Congresswoman. And they did this so they could promote their own agenda. In this video, I'm going to make 3 very serious accusations against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. 1, she did not actually run for Congress. 2, she is a puppet congresswoman. And 3, the people controlling her are very dangerous. The first point I have already made. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did not run. She was run. What I mean by that is Alexandria did not take it upon herself to run for Congress. She was used by this group, the Justice Democrats, as a figurehead through which they could gain control of New York's 14th Congressional District House seat. These guys not only scripted and produced AOC's beautiful campaign video, but they organized the entire grassroots campaign effort. They handled all the fundraising, the social media, the get out the vote effort. They turned Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez into a brand, and they used that brand to take control of that House seat. The people of New York did not elect a Puerto Rican girl from Brooklyn to represent them. They elected an Indian guy from Texas and a white guy from Tennessee.
And that they did. So, Chris, first of all, how did Ocasio-Cortez get on your radar? What inspired you to go after her like this in such a well-thought-out video?
Well, there's this video, this Now This video. You know, they have those Now This videos that are popular on Facebook and Instagram. And I see this video, and she was doing something kind of smart, right? She did this quick fire round. She's like, let's do this quick fire round, right? And she had all these, like, quote unquote experts brought in so that they could give the answers that they wanted to the questions she was asking. And it presented it, it framed what she was doing in such a way that it actually was effective. It made the president kind of look bad to the people who maybe wanted to believe that. And I thought, geez, you know, who's helping her with this? Because she, you know, you put her in an interview, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But then here she's doing this thing, and you could see her, she's reading the script, you know, she's going, okay, I got another question. All right, but okay, here's another one. You know, and you can tell she's like looking, somebody had given her a script and said, okay, do this. Right, the Green New Deal. She didn't write that. It was her people. And now one of these other women, Ayanna Pressley, just proposed this idea that 16-year-olds should vote. Right? Do you think that was Ayanna Pressley's idea? No, I don't think so. It was this guy, Saikat Chakrabarti. Right? Saikat Chakrabarti is the name of the guy that was the campaign manager for AOC. Now he's her chief of staff. And it looks like that he kind of was the brains behind all this. I thought maybe it was Cenk Uygur at first, But it looks like that the Young Turks were more of a communication network to promote this idea. This is more Saikat Chakrabarti and Zach Exley kind of brainstormed this whole concept of replacing all of the Democrats in Congress with these, what they call progressives, which you might call socialists. And they just feed them the scripts, right? And I think that the nefarious nature of all of this is really that it's about degrees, right? Because everybody knows there's influence. There's influence in Congress. But this goes to control, right? They're actually controlling congressmen or congresswomen in this case. And right now they have seven people that they endorse. They have 3 people that I think they control these people, right? Because especially Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she doesn't know enough about politics to actually be a qualified, effective member of Congress. So she has to completely rely on these people. And the big question is, was this their intention?
Don't discount the fact that she can make a mean martini, though, Chris. I mean, if she can mix a drink, why not mix up the
Well,
the
what? I was
politics
talking
too,
to
right?
somebody about this, about her experience as a bartender, and she probably got a little bit of the patter from that, right? She's in this bar, people are talking politics. She starts to learn how to talk politics effectively. I have a theory that she has this something called the princess syndrome. I call it the princess syndrome, where she grew up and she was pretty, and so people didn't want to say no to her because they wanted to make her smile. You know how people, you're a cute little girl, you want to, make her happy. So her parents probably never said no to her. Her teachers probably never said no to her. She was a pretty Puerto Rican girl in a white school. You know how, leftist teachers are. So they're probably like, oh, we have only a few minorities here. This pretty little girl, we got to, be nice to her. She probably never heard no in her entire life. She's never challenged. That's why she can be so ignorant and so confident about the things that she says. But look, I don't really fault, Alexandria. I think she's a puppet. I think the people behind her are the really nefarious forces here. And I don't even think they think they're nefarious. I think that they think they're trying to do good in the world. But when you have an outside group actually controlling members of Congress, that's not how our democracy is supposed to work. I don't think that the people of the 14th District of New York wanted to elect these guys with Alexandria as a mouthpiece. I think they wanted to elect this woman thinking that she was like them. I mean, they ran the whole thing on, I look like you. I'm one of you. I'm from your hometown, and I'm Hispanic like you are. She was like, everybody in that area is, of some kind of ethnic minority group. I'm of an ethnic minority group. Hire me. Don't hire this old white man. Well, that's not really who they elected, is it?
What I think is interesting is that some of the loudest voices right now that we're hearing in Congress, Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar. And they come from this class of intersectional, identity politics where they are like untouchable. And you're watching how Nancy Pelosi is terrified as an old white woman to go and attack these people in her party. First off, they're freshmen. Don't hurt. They're just ignorant freshmen. They're getting their feet wet in Congress. And then you add the religious aspect, you add the gender aspect, and then all of a sudden these people are untouchable. I mean, we saw what happened with Ilhan Omar and her crazy anti-Semitic statements, and all of a sudden, boom, Rashida Tlaib and Linda Sarsour come to her aid. Without question, Nancy Pelosi backs down, waters down that entire deal. So the people behind him, though, the Justice Democrats, this is from their Wikipedia page, if you believe Wikipedia. Cenk Younger, Kyle Kulinski, Saikat Chakrabarti, and Zach Exley. And what I think is interesting is, of course, we know who the Young Turks are. Okay, if you're on YouTube and you've been exposed to that organization, you know who these guys are. Cenk used to also be on MSNBC before he realized that they weren't far enough left for him. And then, of course, what's also interesting is Saikat Chakrabarti is he's starting to make some media rounds. He's sort of coming out from behind the curtain. And in some of those videos, like the one we're going to show in a moment here, you point out some of the people that he looks up to. And that's, I think, when I watched your video And I saw you draw the line to that individual. What was his name again?
I think it's Subhas Chandra Bose.
Yeah, I mean, that guy, terrifying prospect.
Yeah.
Of course, with his connections to the Nazi Party and what his plans for India were. But
I've talked to some Indian people, like, some guys on my channel who said, a lot of people in India look up to that guy and they don't really know what he was about. So it could just be that Saikat just respects him the same way some of the people in India do. However, he's an American. He's from Texas. He's from Fort Worth, Texas. So if he knows about this guy, he has to have researched him. So he has to know what he's about. He has to know what his philosophy was. So I don't buy the idea that he's just sort of like a guy from India who respects this guy, because I think he's kind of like a national hero in India, from what I hear.
Well, especially if he's wearing his T-shirt and he's playing the political game. I mean, he's
it's
about
a Che
to get
Guevara
burned.
style shirt as well.
Exactly. It's in the style of Che Guevara. And a lot of times, those ignorant leftists that wear that T-shirt, they honestly have no freaking clue what they're wearing. It's just a trendy thing. Oh, this guy was a revolutionary.
I think
exactly. I think there's no excuse for somebody like him at his operational level in politics to have an excuse to be ignorant of who that guy is.
Because I know what I'm doing when I put this on the cup.
Me too.
This is deliberate, my friend. Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, they're a little salty, the tears, but gives a little bit more flavor. So the Justice Democrats, they came around, the formation was January 23rd, 2017. It's a political action committee. Now, I ran a super PAC in 2012 during the 2012 election, and it was a crash course for me getting involved in national level politics. I'll never do it again. That I don't want. The level of control at the FEC is just ridiculous. But that's a story for another day. Now, they have some affiliations here to brand new Congress, National Nurses United, and a former affiliation with the Young Turks, which I think is just smoke and mirrors. And then there's a resignation by Cenk Younger. I don't even know. Cenk Chunk. I don't even know how to say his name.
Yeah, it's difficult.
But so what I think is interesting is that, first of all, he has a massive YouTube channel, a massive following, massive influence. It's not like he's going to just walk away and be like, hey, you know what? I wrote a couple blog posts. I'm going to leave. Do you buy the fact that he's resigned?
Well, when his nephew was talking about my video on his Twitch, he literally said, yeah, of course he's got influence. Of course he's got influence over these guys. I mean, maybe he's not telling the truth, but why wouldn't he? Why would? Of course he does. Of course he's still connected to these people. I mean, I don't know if Cenk really, because here's the thing: whenever you have these kinds of this amount of power, you're going to have people fighting for control. And it looks to me like Saikat is the guy who's been able to wield the most control out of this, because he is the chief of staff for AOC. And it seems to me like he's doing a lot of the policy writing and stuff like that, along with Zach Exley. I think there's another guy called Corbin Trent. I'm not exactly sure how much influence he has. He seems a little bit of a doofus, but I mean, he might be kind of like a quiet genius. All these guys, none of them really look formidable, but you really can't dismiss them because they've been so effective. I mean, they got 3 people from nothing, essentially, through like an audition process, 3 people into Congress that they essentially control. So despite the fact that Saikat Chakrabarti kind of looks like Harry Potter, like an Indian version of Harry Potter, he's a wizard, man.
Well, and let's also bring up the fact that he's got millions of dollars that he made in Silicon Valley. So he's not somebody that's just walked off the street, okay? He's got connections. And of course, since we're talking about Silicon Valley, one of the most bizarre things happened to me today. I got a text message from a friend, and he's like, hey, man, I'm trying to share this meme with Ocasio Cortez and Nancy Pelosi. I'm going to bring this up here, and this is going to blow everybody's mind. So I said, well, okay, you post this meme. This is the meme itself, okay? This is the meme. And it says, Trump is a dictator, says the women who, who want to decide if a newborn can live, how much money you should be allowed to make, what energy source you can use, and if you should own guns. So this meme was posted to social media, and this is what happened when I tested it. Boom, I get the red exclamation circle. Okay, it said you can't. It said failed to post, and then I tried putting it out on Facebook Messenger. Send failed. Tap to retry or delete. So I kept trying to do this, and even the thumbnail for this very video got the same effect. Send, failed, tap or retry to delete. But now those messenger posts were done on the back end. So there could be some weird thing going on Facebook today. But the very fact that this one here, this was the forward-facing post. This was a forward-facing post. It was a comment, actually a comment on a Ben Shapiro video. Okay? And this was, it was blocked.
That's where you got it, from a Ben Shapiro video?
No, I got it from a friend of mine. A friend of mine sent it to me. He said, hey, I'm having trouble posting this meme. And I'm like, that's kind of weird, you know? So
well, all these companies are becoming so fascistic. You know, they're like, oh, we're anti-fascist. We're anti-fascists. You're the fascists.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are the fascists. I mean, nothing in there is really controversial. It's if there's one thing, you know, Elizabeth Warren's coming out with a platform that I agree with. It's completely insane. She's like, you know, I want to trust bust some of these Silicon Valley companies. I'm like, please.
Yeah.
You know, YouTube is, you know, demonetizes tons of my videos, and it seems completely arbitrary sometimes. They demonetized a review I did of Choose Your Own Adventure books. That one wasn't even political. I'm like, what are you demonetizing that for? It's kind of weird. Like, sometimes they'll hide comments, and it'll just be like, great video, man. I'm like, why is this spam? Like, why is this spam? I mean, I don't know. Whatever the YouTube algorithms are, they're not consistent. They're seem like they're arbitrary, and they definitely target conservative content.
Well, one thing that
no question.
Yeah, no, I mean, we just saw. I got a message from Mark Dice. He sent me a link to an article where they had just manipulated the search results for Brie Larson's film, Captain Marvel.
Really? Captain Marvel,
So Captain Marvel, people are going on YouTube and they're panning the film because of the feminist, anti-male statements that she made about the press corps while she's out promoting the movie, which is stupid.
Yeah.
So I mean, why
I've been
would
wanting
you
to do
even
a video
go
on that actually, but
so why even go out there and alienate your audience by saying something so ignorant? So anyway, people go out, they get mad, they do a video, and then what happens? All the search results for Brie Larson come back with these people trashing her. A couple days later, what happens? Boom. They switch the algorithm over, and now you do a search for her name, and everything shows up positive reviews of the movie. It's all CNN, MSNBC, and, you know, authoritative sources. So here's this, when, what's really funny, this is what's crazy. I didn't put a picture of this, but when I posted that, when I posted this meme, and this picture got failed to post, I went down underneath and commented on somebody else. And he said something about YouTube and the algorithm. I said, don't worry, because it was an article about Joe Biden, about him coming in the race, and they're like, yeah, he's going to win 2020. So I said, don't worry. And someone said, well, what about all those handsy videos of him touching kids? And I said, well, don't worry. I said, don't worry, the YouTube algorithm will suppress those, and you'll never see him again.
True.
So I think moving into the 2020 election, we're going into some very, very treacherous territory, and especially with groups like the Justice Democrats working behind the scenes. Back to Psychat Chakrabarty. Let's play the clip here where you take him to task and you reveal something very sinister about him. Let's go to that, Brian.
Saikat Chakrabarti is influenced by this guy, Subhas Chandra Bose. How do we know this? Because he wears this Che Guevara-style shirt with Subhas Chandra Bose's face on it in most of his videos. So I was like, why is this guy wearing a shirt with his own face on it? That's crazy narcissistic. But then I figured out it was this Subhas guy. So who is Subhas Chandra Bose? He was the violent complement to the non-violent Mahatma Gandhi. Yes, the legendary Gandhi. Whilst Gandhi was trying to expel the British from India non-violently, this guy was like, no, let's start a war and let's kill them all. Actually, it was worse than that. Much, much, much worse. Subhas called himself a socialist, but he is quoted as saying, "Our philosophy should be a synthesis between Nazism and communism."
That's terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying to hear that quote. A synthesis between Nazism and communism. Now, if you take that ideology and you draw it down to some of the things that we're seeing out of the this new Democrat socialism, I think you can draw parallels, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, if these people call themselves socialists, right? Subhas Chandra Bose called himself a socialist, right? But he advocated this idea of the synthesis, apparently, according to one of the quotes that I found. I mean, it's the weird thing about socialism and all this kind of like fascistic, ideology. We know what it leads to. Right. I mean, my girlfriend is from Russia, and she turns to me the other day and she says, like, you've got the USSR, you've got Cuba, you've got Venezuela, you've got these countless historic, examples of where socialism leads. Why would anyone buy into that ideology? And the only thing I can think of is control. People. It's possible they have this idea that maybe socialism is inevitable, or maybe we're going to go down that road eventually anyway. If you're in a socialist regime, you need to be at the top, right? You need to be the top 20% or whatever. Because if you're on the bottom, you're the controlled. The laws apply to you. If you're at the top 20%, the laws don't apply to you. You're the ones in control. So if these guys get on the top of a socialist, in a socialist country, call it democratic socialist, but let's be real here. They want full socialism. They want Marxism. They're going to be the ones in control. So that's the only thing I can imagine, unless they're so unbelievably delusional that they really believe that this is the first time socialism is going to genuinely bring some kind of utopia, right? And maybe they do think that, but that's just as dangerous as if they really want the control, because they're like children playing with fire. They're going to burn the house down.
I think also it's, if they can, like, the United States is like the last vestige of hope in the world. Okay, we're seeing socialism and these different hybrids rear up in South America. We're seeing it happen in Europe. Mm-hmm. So if they can get America into the same socialist, communist, Nazi, ideology, get it underneath that, then it will be in lockstep with the rest of the world's programs, and then you have the one world government, and everything's a lot more easier to control. I mean, that's I believe the ultimate
people
goal.
Who are maybe like assisting Saikat Chakrabarti, the rich guys that want to do this sort of like open border stuff, like Soros wants to open borders and all that. I don't know about, so like Saikat may just be resentful or something, because I've met guys, like real like leftist voters, like real passionate guys, who just admit to me, no, I got dealt a bad hand. I know I'm an ugly guy. I know people don't like me, or I know I grew up, poor, or I knew, whatever. They got dealt some bad hand growing up. And they hate the world, man. They want to bring it down. They genuinely vote for people that they think are bad for the country. It's mental, but there is that subsect of the left, and that might be what this guy's doing. It's hard to get into somebody's head. Yeah. I think the real nefarious stuff here is that there is an outside group that is controlling multiple Congress people, and that they're going to do it again in 2020. They're going to do it again 2022. They're going to do it again 2024 until they get more and more and more people that they control in Congress. To me, that is the most nefarious bit.
Well,
right?
and that's why
One
this
group
video is so
controlling
important.
all these people.
That's why this report, what you're doing, is so important, that people see these videos, they share these videos, and they fight the algorithm. What I tell people is, even if they're going to suppress these videos on YouTube, they may not show up in the search algorithms, then you need to take your cell phone out and you need to copy the link and send it through a text message, bypassing the entire search structure, and try to build a text message SMS chain, so you can get around these things. Even emails, which is good, but not everyone has email or is checking emails these days. A lot of people are using messenger apps, but that's why text messages are opened, 98% open rate. Click-through rates on SMS is huge. So that's why it's really important, I think, that text message could really be a way to bypass a lot of this stuff. But then here you bring up the fact that they're going to continue to do this. Now, in your video, you said, well, imagine if they did it, they scaled it out. They ran 2,000.
They stated they're doing this.
Yeah.
They stated that they're going to keep doing this.
Right. So I think, though, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm wishful thinking that Chakrabarty is going to go down in flames because of this, these FEC violations, and how they're running all this money out, using different corporations and stuff. But then the cynical side of me says, no, he's going to walk like Hillary walked. Like, he's part of this protected class of the left that never sees, the inside of a prison, and the FBI just looks the other way. But I've seen.
It may be that because we don't really know what the violations are, so it may actually be something that is less sinister than we think. I mean, they could have been more careful. Like, to me, the articles that I read about it are like, people were almost astonished that he would be so stupid, right? Because it's like, this is not how. If you're gonna rip off your campaign or something, like, this is not how you do it. This is like the stupidest way to do it, because everybody's going to see it. So everybody was looking at this like, everybody they interviewed was like, I don't even understand this. I don't understand why he even did this. So we'll have to find out. I mean, they're going to investigate, so we'll find out.
Yeah, and if this is his first time dealing with Washington, D.C. politics and PACs, it's not an easy world to navigate. As a naive activist, I went into it thinking, yeah, we're going to change the world. We're going to run campaign ads. We're going to have a lot of fun doing it. And you miss your filing date, and then you got the FEC, like riding your back because you screwed up. You better make those filing dates, son. I mean, I'll tell you, that was like, as soon as we missed our filing date for our first thing, because that's what everyone's waiting for. They want to see what you file. They want to see who's donating. They want to see where the money's going. And we missed that because of some computer glitch, and it was just stupid. And then all of a sudden the FEC, and now we're on the front page of, MSN. Now we're on the radar of all these groups because they're trying to find out who is this PAC and what are they up to. Anyway, that's, like I said, another story. So maybe it's just ignorance, maybe it's naivete with this guy, but nonetheless, it's still just as threatening that they're actually having success in what they're doing by bringing these people into Congress who now have the loudest voices, and Pelosi's cowering in fear in the corner.
Well, I would like to say that it's good for the right in the short term, because they're dividing the left up, right? But it's bad for democracy. I mean, it's bad for the country in the long term. And I don't know. To me, it's like, yeah, Nancy Pelosi's getting upset. I like to see that. But I don't want to see any one person controlling people who aren't controlling the Congress people. Like, it should be the people in the district should know who they're voting for.
Right.
That's very important to me.
So when we look at the people here, this is from the Justice Democrats wiki. You've got they ran a lot of people. They ran governors. Cynthia Nixon was one of them in New York.
That's right.
Abdul El Sayed in Michigan. Ben Jealous in Maryland, Matt Brown, Christine Halquist, Rhode Island, Vermont, and then they had Senate candidates. Okay, did not qualify. A lot of these just did not qualify or lost or withdrew.
I think it's 79 in total, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of people here. Senate, so they ran 5 governors, and they ran 4 Senate candidates, and then of course the House. It just runs on and on and on, page after page, and in every state, Arizona.
Can I tell you what I think the answer to this is?
What do you? Because
I don't know if they violated any kind of law. I'm not a lawyer, but I do think that if the people of each district knew what was happening, then I don't know if they would vote for the people that are being put up by this group in particular, because people want to believe that democracy works the way they think it does, right? And TYT, Young Turks, they always say, "Oh, we've been transparent. We've been transparent." You've been transparent to the people who are donating money to this cause. You have not been transparent to the voters of those districts, right? And that's a big difference. So I think that if you get everybody to know what's happening here, right? If somehow we can educate the public on all of this, then people will be a little bit more wary. If anyone can brand their opponent with the stigma of being associated with these people, these puppeteers, I think it's going to be really hard for them to win. If people do know about this. I mean, you can run a campaign ad that says, look, this person is controlled by these people. It's the same people that elected this person, same people that elected this person. They're trying to control Congress. Don't let them do it. Nobody's going to vote for that person. Well, maybe some groups will, but.
You make a really good point in basically just revealing that it's all outside money coming in to try to take over their district, literally hosting casting calls to find a candidate that they can prop up. And then, okay, look, they've got money, tons of money pouring in. I mean, you look at the advertising campaign, you look at the marketing materials of Ocasio Cortez, and it is beautiful. It is so well done. I mean, they got it down. But then you bring it out to all these other candidates all across the country with the same honey, the same sweetness that attracts you in, and all of a sudden you've lost control of your district and you got some guy named Chakrabarty, controlling your
I
candidate.
had people from who were associated with Justice Democrats and Young Turks calling me saying, you are spot on. And not only that, but I can tell you 100% they were looking for people that they could control. They weren't just looking for people that aligned with their values. I mean, yes, they were, obviously. But they didn't want just people that aligned with their values. They wanted people who were willing to just do what they said without question. And AOC is perfect for that. She doesn't know enough about politics to be autonomous as a congresswoman. She cannot make those decisions on her own because she just doesn't know enough. So she has to rely on Chakrabarty. She has to rely on Zach Exley. She has to rely on these guys to tell her how to vote, what to propose to Congress. They're doing all the work for her, and she's just up there, pretty face, making waves, tweeting. I don't even think she tweets. I think my dad actually had a great suggestion. He said, from now on, we do not call her Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We call her Saikat Chakrabarty's puppet, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That's her name now. I was like, Dad, nobody's going to say that, but that is genius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's definitely a puppet. And that was one thing that you brought up in your video was that it's bizarre. And you mentioned it at the beginning of this interview here, is that she goes there in Congress and she sounds so sharp and so smart and so witty, just like when Ilhan Omar was there and she was grilling Elliot Abrams. They're there, they're reading off a script, but the minute they're off script, the minute they're like they can't have their notes at their side, and they're sitting in front of an interview person, they just sound like idiots. Like we've been running reports all day on Ocasio-Cortez. It's like I'm getting tired of talking about this woman. But the fact is, we're showing these clips of her, and she's just running off the mouth with these crazy talking points that just have a lot of big fancy words that really, when you put it all together, mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I show in my video an example of something that I think it was Corbin Trent says while he's talking to Zach Exley, and they've recorded it, right? It's like what we're doing right here, and then like a couple years later, I got all the dates wrong on my video, by the way. So if you watch my video, ignore the dates. I messed that up. I'm a one-man show. Okay, it's difficult. But he's talking to him, and a couple years later, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says exactly the same thing, but wrong. Right? Like it's like she's a great actress. She's charismatic. She's a star, but she can't get her lines right. That's like it's got to be so frustrating to be these guys, be feeding her these lines, prepping her for these interviews. She goes in and she says this stuff, and it's just not quite right. She just messes a couple things up. And when she goes off script, like you said, she's still trying to be on script because she's still trying to repeat the stuff that this team has been talking about. Because, I mean, she's in with these people all the time. So she must hear what they're saying all the time. Like, you know, this girl's saying, like, we need to have the same kind of effort we had in World War II to try to get the economy back through this Green New Deal. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez translates that to, this is our World War II. It's like you're off script late. I mean, you're almost there. You're getting your lines wrong.
No, this is our World War II. Or my favorite part was we hammered her on this one when she went up and she was promoting the Green New Deal the first day out, right? And she's like, and the people in their living rooms getting overtaken by the rising sea levels. I'm like, what are you talking about?
She said that? Like actually now happening?
She actually said that. I don't know if we can pull that clip up or not.
In.
Oh, yeah. It's like she paints a picture like these people are in their living room, you know, playing PlayStation or something. And all of a sudden, like, the rising sea levels are coming in their living room. And
I didn't see that one. That's funny.
Just type in, you know, Ocasio-Cortez, Green New Deal, rising sea levels. I mean, she goes and she talks. It's just ridiculous. My God, I wish we had that clip ready. But these are the types of talking points that she completely shreds when she's trying to make sense, and that just reveals that she's just a puppet. She's a pawn, and she's playing the game for her masters. So I think at the end of the day here, what you brought up is that we got to keep an eye on where Chakrabarty is, his name pops up. Okay. Yep. Now he would be smart to leave his name off certain paperwork and stuff and just act as some, you know, consulting firm behind the scenes. But since he's the chief of staff for her, that's a little hard to do. But when it comes to the Justice Democrats across the board, what they're going to try to do in the next election cycle is going to be very, very interesting to watch. And, you know,
it's a little scary.
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is. So I think we've pretty much covered a lot of ground here. I don't know what more we can really talk about, but I think we just need to make sure people are aware this is happening, and they need to make other people aware by sharing your video. How many views do you have now? Like 1 million or something?
Yeah, just hit over 1 million the other day. I don't know what it's at now, but yeah, it's doing well.
Congratulations.
Pretty happy about it.
It's beautiful. When I saw it come across my desk, I said, this is really, really good. And the way
Andrew
you put it all together.
got wind of it, and he kind of just dismissed it. He goes, look, this is just how politics works. And I'm like, I don't think so. And, you know, one of the guys that called me, he kind of said the same thing. He's like, well, listen, they want to replace the DNC, so they're just copying DNC tactics. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, this is what the DNC does. They put up puppets. And, like, I'm sure that has happened in the past quietly. I don't think it is ubiquitous. I don't think every congressman is a puppet. I think a lot of them think for themselves. But this is a weird scenario where these guys are so convinced that this is just business as usual in Washington that they're willing to do it out in the open. They're willing to have this puppet candidate out in the open, completely transparent. You know, they're making videos about it, and they don't even realize that this is probably going to piss off the voters. Maybe they won't piss off the voters of that district because they love AOC so much, but it would sure as heck piss me off if I found out the guy I voted for isn't actually running the show.
Well, and again, see, why Klavan dismissed it is simply because, yeah, I mean, what Justice Democrats are doing, they are manipulating the existing structures of government and politics to fulfill their political agenda. They're using PACs, they're using dark money, and these are all the things that Ocasio-Cortez says, no, I'm funded by the people.
Well, yeah, so I mean, it's hypocritical.
Yeah, so she's out there lying.
But his main argument was, you know, look, this is a war of ideas, and they're winning the war of ideas. And I was like, I'm not sure that's actually true. I think that they presented this woman as one of the people that, you know, is going to be voting in that district. I'm one of you. You know, you're mostly Latino. I'm Latino. You know, I'm from your area. You know, this white guy doesn't represent you. You know, he doesn't look like you. I look like you. That's how they pitched her. Yeah. I was like, yeah, but actually then they got an Indian guy from Texas and a white guy from Tennessee to represent them. That's what they ended up getting. And so and it's not just, I mean, it's about degrees. Yes, there's influence in politics. Of course there is. Of course there is. Is it good? No, everybody complains about it all the time. This goes to another level, though. It's like, are you willing to say, okay, we don't like influence, but we're willing to accept control? No, that's a totally other level. And, like I said, I'm being called by these guys saying, yeah, that was their intent. Their intent is control. It's not just influence. I mean, it's going to be a hard thing to prove. I mean, this is not like a court case or something. But the people of the country who are voting these people into office need to know what the plan is there. And look, we could have a discussion about this. If people think it's okay to have these little groups of people who control multiple members of Congress, if we as a country think that that's an okay way to have our democracy, then let's go there. But I don't think most people are going to go with that. That's not the way that we expect the democracy to run.
Well, from what I can see here, they are a political action committee. So political action committees can declare that they're going to support XYZ candidate or a specific idea. So that's what they're doing. The scary part is that like you said, they're going into these districts and they're handpicking the puppets that they can prop up with their own talking points. So it's an artificial construct of that congressperson who simply is regurgitating what they're heard. And of course, Ocasio-Cortez doesn't always get it right, but that's what's happening here. And that's when, like you said, they say, "Oh, I look like you. Vote for me." So they're picking these people, handpicking them, just so they can manipulate the vote and get their ideas, not the person's ideas, not the congressperson's ideas. If I was to run for Congress, I would run on my ideas. I would run on my positions. Of course, I would consult with people and try to consult with the constituents and find out what's important to them. But at the same time, my ideas are mine, okay? And they're not going to be from a political action committee. Now, I don't know how much this political action committee actually contributed to her campaign or supported her campaign. I'm not sure to what degree all that went down, but I think we need to keep a very close eye on this. And
I think it's called being principled. You want your politicians to be principled. Yeah. And she's just, you can't be principled if you're a puppet. You just go with what other people tell you.
Yeah. Well, Chris, it's been awesome talking with you. Congratulations on putting together such an excellent video. And
thank you, Gary.
We got to get these things out there. We got to wake up the American people to the people behind the curtain who are controlling the people that we think are there for our best interests when they're actually serving the political action committee's best interests. So, any final thoughts before we go?
No, just we need to start calling her Chakrabarty's puppet, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That's her new name.
All right,
just gotta get that out there.
But I think
it's nobody's gonna do it. But I love it. I love the idea.
What about puppet Ocasio-Cortez? Puppet Cortez.
Yeah, Puppet Cortez. Yeah,
Puppet Cortez.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the craziest comments. Maybe people watching right now, you leave a comment below with what you think is the best name for Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah, somebody come up with Alexandria Puppet Cortez. If you can think of something better than that, let's hear it.
I mean, some people, they call her occasional Cortex.
Yeah, I hear that.
I've seen that a lot. It's like, you know what? That actually describes what's happening to her because she's getting her talking points wrong.
She's using somebody else's brains.
Yeah, the occasional Cortex. All right. Well, Chris, it's been great having you. Look forward to having you back again soon.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, folks, at home, you're watching this. You know what to do right now. Hit the share button. Wake up the American people to the puppet masters who are working behind the scenes, not just to work to control Ocasio Puppet Cortez, but the people who are working to take over control of this entire country. Okay, they want to change. They want to radically change the face of this country. It is a direct threat to the values of the United States, the Constitution, our founding documents. Okay, our founding fathers. We need to fight this every single step of the way. So comment below with your favorite Ocasio-Cortez puppet name, and then hit that share button. We'll see you at the next report. For the Next News Network, I'm Gary Franchi. Thank you for watching that report. If you want more, subscribe to the channel by clicking on the Next News Network logo right here. You can also watch our latest news reports by clicking here, or you can get the latest breaking news by clicking here, or The most viral news on the channel, the news that Hillary and Obama hate, right here.